Welcome aboard the rising word air, where every flight takes you into the serene skies of Japanese literature and peaceful dreams. Good evening, passengers. This is your captain, Alexander Harrow, speaking. Welcome aboard the rising word air. Tonight's destination is a quiet riverside watermill illuminated by moonlight. There, a young cellist named Gauche plays his instrument, encountering a series of mysterious visitors. When we listen closely to solitude, music opens new doors. Join us as we witness Gauche's strange encounters with animals and the transformative power of music. The Enigmatic Cellist is a story about how music heals, connects, and changes hearts. Let this journey guide you through the silence, helping you discover the note that resonates within your own soul. Now, let's take flight. Thank you for flying with Rising Word Air. Gauche was a cellist at the town's motion picture theatre. However, his reputation wasn't great. In fact, he was considered the worst musician in the entire orchestra, and he was constantly scolded by the conductor. One afternoon, the orchestra gathered in the rehearsal room to practice Beethoven's Sixth Symphony for the upcoming town concert. The trumpet played its heart out, the violins swept through the air like a two-toned breeze, and the clarinet joined in with a deep, resonant hum. Gauche, with his lips tightly pressed and his eyes wide open, was intensely focused on the sheet music, playing with all his might. Suddenly, the conductor clapped his hands, bringing the music to an abrupt halt. The cello is dragging. From to-te-te-te-te-te, start again. Ready. Everyone began again from a few measures before the mistake. Gauche, his face flushed and sweat beading on his forehead, barely made it through the section. Relieved, he continued playing, but soon enough the conductor clapped again and stopped the music. "Cello! Your strings are off. This is unacceptable. I don't have time to teach you basic scales." The other musicians cast sympathetic glances at Gauche, pretending to check their own scores or instruments to avoid making eye contact. Frantically, Gauche adjusted his strings. To be fair, the cello itself was also to blame. It was an old and difficult instrument to handle. From the previous measure, ready. The music resumed, and this time they progressed further. Gauche thought, "It's going well now." But once again the conductor raised his hand threateningly and clapped. Not again, Gauche thought, his heart sinking. But this time it was someone else who had made a mistake. Gauche took the chance to copy his peers, leaning close to his sheet music as if deeply absorbed in it. All right, moving on to the next section. Ready. Just as Gauche began playing, the conductor suddenly stomped his foot and roared angrily. "No, no, no, that was terrible, absolutely unacceptable. This section is the heart of the symphony, and yet you're playing it so carelessly." The conductor's frustration echoed through the rehearsal room. "Gentlemen, we have only 10 days left before the concert. If we, as professional musicians lose to a ragtag group of amateurs like the blacksmiths and the grocer's apprentices, what will happen to our reputation? He turned his stern gaze toward Gauche. Gauche, you're the real problem here. Your playing lacks any emotion. There's no joy, no anger, no feeling at all. And worst of all, you never synchronize with the other instruments. It's as if you're dragging along behind us, like someone with untied shoelaces struggling to keep up. This cannot continue. If our prestigious Venus Orchestra gains a bad reputation because of you, it will be an embarrassment to us all. Get your act together, or we will all suffer. The conductor sighed heavily. That's enough for today. Take a break and make sure you're back in the box at 6 sharp. The musicians bowed slightly and began to disperse. Some lit cigarettes, while others wandered off to different parts of the building. Gauche, clutching his worn-out cello, turned toward the wall. Tears welled up in his eyes and trickled down his cheeks. But after a few moments he wiped them away, took a deep breath, and began practicing the section alone, quietly but determinedly. Late that night, Gauche returned home, carrying something large and black on his back. His home was a decrepit watermill on the outskirts of town, situated by a small river. He lived there alone. In the mornings, he would tend to the small vegetable garden around the mill, trimming tomato vines and picking pests off the cabbage leaves. In the afternoons, he would head to town to play at the theatre. When Gauche entered the watermill, he lit a lamp and carefully unwrapped the black bundle. It was, of course, his rugged old cello. He placed it gently on the floor, went to the shelf, grabbed a cup, and drank deeply from a bucket of water. Then, with a determined shake of his head, he sat down on a chair, grabbed the cello, and began playing with fierce intensity. He attacked the notes like a tiger, turning the pages of his sheet music as he went. He played, thought, and played again, over and over, until he reached the end of the piece. Then he started again from the beginning, repeating the section tirelessly. Hours passed, and the night grew deep. Gauche's face flushed red, his eyes bloodshot. He played with such ferocity that it seemed he might collapse at any moment. Suddenly there was a gentle knock at the door. "Gauche, is that you?" he called out, half dazed from exhaustion. The door creaked open, and a large calico cat stepped inside. Gauche recognized it immediately. He had seen this cat several times before. The cat, carrying a half-ripe tomato from Gauche's garden, placed it in front of him with a weary sigh. "Whew! That was a tough delivery," the cat said, panting. What? Gauche blinked in confusion. "It's a gift. Please, help yourself," the cat said politely. But Gauche, still fuming from the day's frustrations, erupted in anger. "Who asked you to bring me a tomato? I don't want your gifts. And besides, that tomato came from my garden. You've been sneaking around, biting the stems and ruining my plants, haven't you? Get out of here, you wretched cat." The cat narrowed its eyes, but a sly smile played around its mouth. Now, sir. There's no need to get so worked up. It's bad for your health. Instead, why don't you play Schumann's Träumerei for me? I'd love to hear it." "What? You're telling me to play music for you? A cat? How ridiculous. Gauche was livid. He stared at the cat, contemplating what to do with it. The cat, unperturbed, continued, "Please, don't be shy. Go ahead and play. I can't sleep without listening to your music, you know." "Impudent little thing. How dare you?" Gauche stomped his foot, mimicking the conductor's earlier outburst, and yelled. But suddenly, he changed his mind. "Fine, I'll play." He locked the door, shut all the windows, took out his cello, and turned off the lamp. The moonlight from a waning moon streamed softly through the window, illuminating half the room in a pale glow. "What shall I play?" Gauche asked, still glaring at the cat. "Träumerei, composed by the romantic Schumann," the cat replied, wiping its mouth with a dignified air. "I see. So that's what Träumerei is," Gauche muttered. Without further ado, he tore a handkerchief into pieces and stuffed the cloth tightly into his ears. Then, with the force of a raging storm, he began to play a furious piece titled "The Tiger Hunt in India." The cat tilted its head, listening intently for a moment. Suddenly its eyes sparkled with alarm. With a swift leap, it bolted toward the door and threw itself against it with a loud thud. But the door did not budge. The cat, now realizing it had made a colossal mistake, panicked. Sparks shot from its eyes and forehead, and soon sparks flew from its whiskers and nose as well. The sensation made the cat twitch uncontrollably, as if it were about to sneeze. Then, deciding it could not stay still, the cat began pacing frantically. Gauche, thoroughly amused, played with even greater fervor. "Enough! Please stop. I'm begging you, sir. I won't take the conductor's role again, I promise," the cat pleaded. "Silence! I'm just getting to the part where the tiger is captured," Gauche replied, his fingers moving relentlessly across the strings. The cat jumped and twisted in agony, crashing into the walls. Each time it struck the wall, a glowing blue mark remained for a few moments before fading. At last, the cat began spinning around Gauche like a windmill, its movements frantic and erratic. Gauche, feeling slightly dizzy from the spectacle, finally stopped playing. "All right, I'll let you off this time," he said, putting his bow down. The cat, instantly recovering its composure, smoothed its fur and remarked, "Sir, tonight's performance was quite peculiar." Gauche bristled at the remark, but remained calm. He pulled out a rolled cigarette, placed it in his mouth, and struck a match. "How are you feeling? Did you burn your tongue?" "Stick it out," Gauche said, feigning concern. The cat, with a disdainful expression, stuck out its long, pointed tongue. "Ah, a little rough, isn't it?" Gauche observed. Without warning, he ran the match along the cat's tongue and used it to light his cigarette. The cat, utterly shocked, spun around in a frenzy, waving its tongue like a windmill. It dashed to the door, banging its head against it repeatedly, wobbling back each time before making another attempt to escape. Gauche watched the scene with amusement for a while, before he finally stood up and opened the door. "Off you go, and don't come back, you fool," he said with a smirk. The cat bolted out, disappearing into the tall grass like a gust of wind. Gauche chuckled, and feeling a sense of relief, soon fell into a deep sleep. The following night, Gauche returned home once again, carrying his cello in its black case. After drinking deeply from a bucket of water, he began playing with the same intensity as the night before. The hours ticked by. Midnight came and went. Then 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Yet Gauche continued to play relentlessly. At some point, lost in his music, he no longer knew what time it was, or even if he was still playing. The room filled with the relentless sound of his cello, roaring like a storm. Suddenly, a soft tapping sound came from the attic. "The cat! Are you back already?" Gauche shouted. But instead of the cat, a soft plopping sound followed, and a single grey bird fluttered down from a hole in the ceiling. The bird landed gracefully on the floor, and Gauche saw that it was a cuckoo. "A bird now? What do you want?" Gauche asked, staring at the grey bird that had landed on his floor. "I've come to learn music," the cuckoo said, with an air of seriousness. Gauche laughed. "Music? All you do is go cuckoo, cuckoo. That's not music." The cuckoo tilted its head solemnly. "Yes, that's exactly it. But it's more difficult than it sounds." "Difficult? Don't be ridiculous. You just repeat the same sound over and over again." "Oh no, it's much more complicated than that. For instance, there's a big difference between going cuckoo this way and going cuckoo that way." "There's no difference at all," Gauche said dismissively. "Well then, you wouldn't understand. But among us cuckoos, if one of us says cuckoo 1,000 times, each one is distinct. No two are ever the same. Suit yourself. If you're so skilled, why come to me?" "Because I want to master do, re, mi, fa accurately before I travel abroad," the cuckoo explained. "Abroad? What nonsense is this?" Gauche muttered. "Please, teacher, show me how to play do, re, mi, fa. I'll follow along and sing it," the bird pleaded. "Fine, I'll play it 3 times, then you leave. Understood?" Gauche picked up his cello, tuned the strings with a few resonant notes, and played a slow do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The cuckoo flapped its wings excitedly. "No, no, that's wrong. That's not how it goes." "Oh, for heaven's sake, then show me how it's done." The cuckoo straightened its body, took a moment to compose itself, and then let out a clear, single cuckoo. Gauche raised an eyebrow. "What? That's your do, re, mi, fa? For you, do, re, mi, fa must be no different from Beethoven's 6th Symphony." "No, there is a difference," the cuckoo insisted. "What difference?" "The difficulty lies in repeating it continuously. It takes great skill to keep it consistent," the bird explained. "Oh, I see. Like this?" Gauche picked up his cello again and played a sequence of notes mimicking the sound. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo." The cuckoo brightened up immediately, joining in with an enthusiastic chorus. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo." It bent its body forward with each call, putting all its energy into the song. Gauche kept playing, but after a while his hands began to ache. "Enough already. That's quite enough," he said, stopping abruptly. The cuckoo looked disappointed, its eyes narrowing with regret. It continued to call softly for a moment longer. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cook, cook, cook," before finally falling silent. Gauche, now thoroughly annoyed, glared at the bird. All right, that's enough. You've had your lesson. Go home. Please, just once more, the cuckoo pleaded. You're very good, but there's still a slight difference I'd like to correct. What? I'm not the one learning from you, Gauche snapped. Go home. The cuckoo bowed its head repeatedly. Please, just one more time. I beg you. Fine, but this is the last time, Gauche growled as he picked up his bow. The cuckoo took a deep breath and said, Please, play it as long as you can. Unbelievable, Gauche muttered with a bitter smile before starting to play again. Once more, the cuckoo joined in with its relentless calls of cuckoo, 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 bending its body forward with each note and giving its all to the performance. At first, Gauche felt irritated, but as he continued to play, a strange thought crossed his mind. Maybe the bird is closer to the true do re mi fa than I am. The more he played, the more he felt that the cuckoo's calls seemed to blend perfectly with the melody. It started to feel as if the bird had mastered something deeper than Gauche himself. What am I doing? If I keep this up, I'll turn into a bird myself, Gauche thought suddenly, stopping his cello abruptly. The cuckoo, thrown off by the sudden silence, wobbled as if it had been hit over the head. It staggered, then resumed its call with a strained voice. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cook, 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 before falling silent. It stared at Gauche with a disappointed expression. Why did you stop? Even the weakest of us will keep singing until our throats bleed. How dare you? I'm not going to keep up this nonsense. Look, dawn is breaking. Gauche snapped, pointing to the window. The eastern sky was turning silver, with dark clouds racing northward. Just until sunrise, please, the cuckoo pleaded. One more time, just a little longer. Silence, you foolish bird. If you don't leave, I'll pluck your feathers and eat you for breakfast, Gauche shouted, stomping his foot. The cuckoo, startled, flew straight toward the window, crashing headfirst into the glass and falling to the floor with a thud. What an idiot! It's glass, Gauche muttered, rushing to open the window. But it wasn't the type of window that opened easily. While Gauche struggled with the frame, the cuckoo tried again, only to smash into the glass and fall once more, this time with a trickle of blood appearing at the base of its beak. Wait, I'm opening it, Gauche said as he finally managed to crack the window open a couple of inches. The cuckoo, determined, fixed its gaze on the eastern sky. With all its remaining strength, it launched itself toward the window once more. This time, the impact was harder than ever. The bird collapsed to the floor, motionless. Gauche, concerned, reached out to pick it up. But suddenly, the cuckoo opened its eyes, darted away from his hand, and prepared to take off again. "No, you fool! You'll kill yourself!" Gauche yelled as he lifted his foot and kicked the window frame. The glass shattered with a loud crash, and the entire window frame fell out. In an instant, the cuckoo shot through the open space, flying straight and fast into the sky, disappearing into the distance until it was no longer visible. Gauche stood there, stunned, staring out the broken window. After a moment, he let out a sigh, collapsed into a corner of the room, and fell into a deep sleep. The next night, Gauche was once again playing his cello well past midnight. Exhausted, he poured himself a glass of water and sat down to drink when he heard a soft knocking at the door. Who could it be this time? Gauche muttered to himself. Determined not to be tricked again like the night before, he decided he would scare off whoever or whatever was at the door. He stood holding his glass and waited. The door creaked open slightly, and in walked a small Tanuki, or raccoon dog. Gauche widened the door a little more, stomped his foot loudly and bellowed, "Hey Tanuki, do you know what Tanuki stew is?" The little Tanuki sat down on the floor with a puzzled expression. Tilting its head as if deep in thought, it finally responded, "Tanuki stew? No, I don't know that." Gauche almost burst out laughing at the Tanuki's clueless face, but managed to keep a stern expression. "Let me tell you then. Tanuki stew is made by cooking a Tanuki like you with cabbage and salt until it's nice and tender for me to eat." The Tanuki blinked in confusion, then said, "But my father told me that Mr. Gauche is a kind man and not scary at all. He said I should come to you to learn." At that, Gauche couldn't hold back his laughter any more. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Learn? Learn what? I'm busy and I'm tired." The little Tanuki suddenly perked up with excitement, stepping closer. "I'm in charge of the little drum in our group, and they told me to come here and play along with your cello." "Little drum? But you don't have a drum." "Oh, I do. Look." The Tanuki pulled out 2 sticks from behind its back. "And what are you going to do with those?" "Please play The Merry Coachman. I'll keep time with my sticks." "The Merry Coachman? Is that some kind of jazz?" The Tanuki shook its head and pulled out a sheet of music. "Here's the score." Gauche took the sheet and laughed. "What a strange tune. All right, let's play. You'll beat time with your sticks, huh?" He began to play, glancing at the Tanuki to see what it would do. The little Tanuki started tapping its sticks on the bass of Gauche's cello, keeping time perfectly. It was surprisingly good, and as he played, Gauche thought, "This is quite fun." When they finished, the Tanuki sat quietly for a moment, tilting its head as if deep in thought. Then, as if it had figured something out, it said, "Mr. Gauche, you always lag a little when you play the second string. It makes me trip over my rhythm." Gauche froze. He had noticed that problem before. The second string always seemed to respond slower, no matter how fast he played. "You might be right. This cello has a flaw," Gauche said with a sigh, looking at his instrument with a mix of frustration and sadness. The Tanuki nodded sympathetically and sat in silence for a while before speaking again. "Where do you think the problem is? Could you play it once more? I'll listen carefully." "Sure. Let's try again." Gauche started playing, and the Tanuki resumed tapping its sticks on the cello. This time, the little creature leaned in close, pressing its ear to the cello's body as if trying to hear every vibration. They played all the way through, and by the time they finished, the eastern sky was starting to brighten. "Ah, dawn is breaking. Thank you so much," the Tanuki said hurriedly. It quickly packed away its music and sticks, securing them to its back with a rubber strap. Bowing several times, it dashed out of the room, Gauche stood by the broken window, watching the Tanuki disappear into the morning light. The breeze from the shattered glass tickled his face as he stood in thoughtful silence. Finally, he decided to get some sleep before heading into town. He crawled into bed and drifted off, hoping to regain his strength. The following night, Gauche once again played his cello through the night. As dawn approached, fatigue overcame him, and he dozed off, holding his sheet music. Suddenly, there was a faint knocking at the door. This time the knock was so soft it was barely audible, but Gauche, now accustomed to nightly visits, heard it immediately. "Come in," he called. The door opened slightly, and a field mouse entered, followed by a tiny baby mouse. They scurried toward Gauche, the little one trailing behind. The baby mouse was so small, it looked no bigger than an eraser. Gauche couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. The mother mouse looked around nervously, then placed a small green chestnut in front of Gauche and bowed deeply. "Sir, my child is very ill. He is near death. Please, we beg you, use your kindness to heal him." "I'm no doctor," Gauche replied gruffly, feeling annoyed. The mother mouse lowered her head in silence. After a moment, she gathered her courage and spoke again. "Sir, that's not true. You heal everyone with your music. We know it. You cured the rabbit grandmother, the Tanuki's father, and even that nasty owl. Please don't let my child be the only one you refuse to help." "I have no idea what you're talking about," Gauche said, shaking his head. "Sure, the Tanuki came to play along last night, but I've never treated any owl or rabbit." The mother mouse began to weep. "Oh, if only he had gotten sick earlier. You played so beautifully just now, but the moment he fell ill, the music stopped. Now, no matter how much we beg, you won't play for him. What a terribly unlucky child he is." Gauche was startled. "What? Are you saying my cello playing cures illnesses? How is that possible?" The mother mouse wiped her eyes and nodded. "Yes. Whenever anyone around here gets sick, we go under your floorboards to listen. Your music heals us." "And it works?" Gauche asked, incredulous. "Yes. Some feel better immediately, while others recover after they return home. Your music makes the blood flow more smoothly and brings a wonderful feeling of relief." Gauche rubbed his chin, deep in thought. "So when my cello resonates, it works like a massage and cures your illnesses," he mused. "All right, let's give it a try." He adjusted the strings and suddenly picked up the baby mouse, gently placing it inside the cello through the sound hole. "I'm coming too. At every hospital, mothers stay with their children," the mother mouse cried, scrambling up the cello. "Do you want to go in too?" Gauche asked. He tried to fit her through the sound hole, but only her head went in. The mother mouse wriggled frantically. "Are you all right in there? Remember, keep your feet together when you fall," she called to her child. "I'm fine," the baby mouse replied in a tiny voice from inside the cello. "See? He's fine," Gauche said, lowering the mother mouse back to the floor. He picked up his bow and began to play a powerful rhapsody. The music roared through the room, resonating like a storm. The mother mouse listened intently, her expression filled with concern. Finally, she couldn't bear it any longer. "That's enough, please let him out," she cried. "Oh, that's all it took," Gauche remarked, lowering his bow and placing his hand over the cello's sound hole. Shortly after, the baby mouse emerged, trembling all over. Gauche silently lowered the baby mouse to the floor. "How do you feel?" he asked. The baby mouse remained silent, eyes closed, shaking slightly. Suddenly it sprang up and began running around. "Oh, he's better! Thank you, thank you!" The mother mouse ran alongside her child before stopping to bow repeatedly in front of Gauche. "Thank you so much, thank you," she repeated at least 10 times. Gauche, now feeling somewhat awkward, asked, "Hey, do you mice eat bread?" The mother mouse looked startled, glancing around nervously. "No, sir. We've heard that bread is made by kneading wheat flour and steaming or baking it until it rises into a delicious food. But we would never dare take anything from your cupboard, especially after the kindness you've shown us." "That's not what I meant. I'm asking if you eat bread. Here, take some for your sick child." Gauche set his cello down and pulled a piece of bread from his cupboard, placing it in front of the field mice. Overwhelmed, the mother mouse began crying and laughing at the same time. She picked up the bread carefully, guiding her child toward the door. They bowed several times before scurrying away. "Oh, talking to mice is exhausting," Gauche muttered before collapsing onto his bed and falling into a deep sleep. 6 days later, the Venus Orchestra gathered in the backstage room of the town's public hall. Their faces were flushed with excitement as they carried their instruments back from the stage. They had just completed a flawless performance of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. Applause thundered through the hall like a storm. The conductor paced around the room, hands in his pockets, pretending not to care. But inside, he was beaming with pride. The musicians lit cigarettes and began packing their instruments into their cases. But the applause didn't fade. In fact, it grew louder and more intense, almost frightening in its persistence. The host, wearing a large white ribbon on his chest, entered the room. "The audience is calling for an encore. Could you play something short?" he asked. The conductor shook his head. No. After such a major piece, nothing we play will satisfy them." "Then at least go out and say a few words." "I won't." "Hey, Gauche, why don't you go out and play something?" "Me?" Gauche was taken aback. "Yes, you." The first violinist nodded in agreement. "Go on," the conductor said. The other musicians thrust Gauche's cello into his hands and pushed him toward the door. Before he knew it, Gauche was on stage, holding his worn-out cello with its patched-up holes. The applause grew even louder, and a few people even shouted. "They're mocking me," Gauche thought. "Fine, I'll show them. I'll play the tiger hunt in India." He stepped to the center of the stage, completely calm. With the same fierce intensity as when the cat had visited him, Gauche launched into the tiger hunt in India. His playing was wild, like the rage of an elephant. Yet the audience sat in complete silence, listening intently. Gauche continued to play, undeterred. He reached the part where the cat had become so agitated that sparks flew from its fur. He passed the section where the cat had repeatedly thrown itself against the door. Still the audience remained mesmerized, hanging on every note. When the piece finally ended, Gauche quickly grabbed his cello and, without glancing at the audience, slipped backstage, just like the cat had darted away after its encounter with the music. In the dressing room, the conductor and his fellow musicians sat quietly, as if they had just witnessed a disaster. Their eyes were wide, and they looked like they had survived a fire. Gauche, feeling defiant, walked briskly across the room, plopped down on a long bench and crossed his legs. Everyone turned to look at him, their expressions serious. No one was laughing or mocking him. "This is a strange night," Gauche thought. Suddenly the conductor stood up and spoke. "Gauche, that was excellent." Despite the unusual choice of music, the audience listened with genuine interest. "You've made incredible progress in just a week or 10 days. Compared to 10 days ago, you've transformed from a baby into a soldier. It seems you could have played like this all along, couldn't you?" The other musicians gathered around him, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, that was great," they said, patting him on the back. "It's because you're strong," the conductor added from across the room. An ordinary person would have collapsed from exhaustion. Later that night, Gauche returned home. As soon as he entered, he gulped down water, thirsty from the intense performance. He opened the window and gazed at the distant sky, where the cuckoo had flown off. "Ah, cuckoo," he murmured. "I'm sorry about that night. I wasn't angry at you." Ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the final destination of tonight's journey. As the last words of this story linger, we invite you to close your eyes and let the calm embrace of sleep take over. Thank you for flying with the rising word air, where timeless Japanese literature guides you into peaceful dreams. Until our next flight, may your rest be deep and your dreams filled with wonder.